I'm very nervous. And I definitely am a suspect. I, uh, my goal is to spend as much time on recovery as I do on the Drunkalog, but the Drunkalog is a lot longer, so I'll see how I do. I started drinking and smoking weed in 1973. I was 10 years old. Shortly after, I found my mom's pill cabinet. She had a great pill cabinet. A couple years after that, she got sober in 1975 and drugged me to my first AA meeting, Fremont. I was 12. And at that same time, the booze disappeared out of the fridge and the pill cabinet got a lot slimmer. And she kind of cast a knowing eye on me that I had a problem. And the reason I started drinking and drugging was because we had a real tough home life. And that was my solution. And it worked pretty good for a couple of years. But shortly after she got sober, I left home and learned how to do crime to survive, because it's at 12 years old, it's gay, prostitute, or crime, and I was more leaning towards the crime thing. About a year after that, I got arrested for the first time and locked up, and a weird thing happened. It's kind of unusual, especially for your first time locked up, but they declared me incorrigible, which means not amenable to rehabilitation. And they also, for the first time in my life, told me that I had a drug and alcohol problem. And consequently, I'd go on to spend a third of my life behind bars in various prisons, and it was not good. I left school in the 8th grade. I never went to a prom. I never went to high school. It's left me kind of embarrassed and ashamed of my lack of education. I've kind of schooled myself along the way. I read pretty well and I have a decent vocabulary. At 15, I got shot at for the first time. I was shot at 3 times, but the first one kind of tells of the kind of alcoholic I was. I was 15. I was running from a 7-Eleven with a half case of Rainier under my arm, and I could hear the bullets flying by my head. They sounded like angry bees. And it's a good thing he didn't hit me, because he would have been in a lot of trouble. I also got my first DUI that year. This was in 78 when I was 15. I had my first one when I was 15. I had my second one when I was 19, and my first deferred prosecution when I was 19. I went on to have 6 DUIs and 3 deferred prosecutions. They didn't used to limit them. So I've been court ordered to AA several times. I want to touch on the hospitals a little bit. I've had 3 major hospital things. The first one was pancreatitis, and I very nearly died from that. My blood pressure was down to 60/30. Somehow I pulled through. The second time, which again points to the kind of alcoholic and drug addict I was, for some unknown reason, my eyes were pointing opposite directions. And they never did figure that out. I was in there for about a week, and they caught me doing speedballs in the bathroom, and I had to make a run for it in my hospital gown. And that was one of my better moments. And then about 3.5, 4 years ago, I had a crack-induced heart attack and was dead for 15 minutes. They shocked me back to life 6 times. I was on a ventilator in the hospital in a drug-induced coma. I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but about a year after that, I got a small inheritance, and I decided that I'd have another heart attack because it was painless. I didn't feel a thing. It wasn't a bad experience at all. And I didn't really want to live anymore. And so I proceeded to smoke $500 worth of crack every day for 2 months, trying to make a heart attack happen again. And it didn't. And I guess the moral of my story is that God has had my back even when I didn't think he did. And there was mental hospitals. I've been to 6, 2 for suicide attempts and 4 for suicidal idealization. I went to treatment for the first time in 1986. I've been to treatment 10 times and various outpatient treatments. In 92, I got my last DUI, my 6th one, and they were DWIs back then. And I decided that I couldn't function and drink anymore because I kept doing stupid things. I DUIs, bar fights, I couldn't control my behavior. And I kind of could on drugs. I mean, I still got arrested every now and then, but I didn't do the stupid things like do burn off in front of the state patrol and stuff like that. So I decided I'd do hard drugs instead. And I went on to become a heroin addict for 10 years. And periodically throughout all that time, I would smoke crack. But then about that time, I started smoking crack heavily. And I lost my family. I lost the lakefront home. About that same time, I quit my really good union job to sell crack. And I was my best customer. I made a series of poor choices in my life. I'm going to switch to recovery now. Shortly after I was trying to die, my sister kept coming by my house and trying to get me to write a will and to write a letter to my children. And it was all pretty morbid and sad. And I had given up on life. I'd quit taking care of myself. I wasn't showering. I wasn't eating. I wasn't even doing a very good job of taking care of my dog, which upsets me more than anything, probably. And I could see the pain that I was causing her. And I still cared about her, but I didn't care about myself. But I thought, well, I'll give this one more try for her sake. And I don't know why it worked, but somehow it worked. Again, God had my back. And that was before the meetings were opening back up, and it was still Zoom, and I hate Zoom. I don't do well on Zoom. And so I was doing like 1 or 2 Zoom meetings a week, and I still managed to stay sober. And the meetings started opening back up, and I started going to a lot of meetings. And shortly after that, I realized that I'd never given AA a fair chance. I'd been in and out of it for over 40 years, and I never followed the suggestions. If I got a sponsor, I wasn't honest with him. I worked my program, and my program was one of picking and choosing what I wanted to do and not doing very much of that. And so when I decided to start following the suggestions, right about that same time, I got a sponsor and I started working the steps. I made kind of a big error in my sponsor. I'd known this guy 40 years and he'd been sober the whole time, but I never asked him if he worked the steps, and he hadn't. And he started working the steps after me, but he was behind me. And but he knew the book real well, and he had a basic grasp of things. And he did a real good job on step 4 and step 5 with me. I did my 5th step overlooking Richmond Beach up atop, looking out over Puget Sound. It was July 1st. It was a beautiful day. And that has a special place for me because my grandfather used to take me there when I was a little boy. And so it was a life-changing event. And the other life-changing event was step 9. It didn't quite go as I thought it would. Some people didn't want to hear it. And most of the other people, it was just, we're glad you're sober. Keep doing what you're doing. And I also jumped into service work. I was secretary in 2 meetings a week. Now I'm down to 1. They wanted me to give one up because I had too many. And I chair when I'm asked to, and I speak when I'm asked to. This is the second time I've spoke. I have a whole different life today. That God-sized hole is gone. My spiritual program has been as amazing as my recovery journey. They're tied together, of course, but at 90 days, I started praying because I knew I was supposed to, and it was real awkward and uncomfortable, and I didn't know who I was praying to or how to do it right, but I just did it, and I've done it every day since then, and that kind of opened me up to the spiritual concepts, and I started reading this daily spiritual book. It's kind of like the daily recovery book, but it's spiritual, and it kind of gives me a direction to pray every day, and it's really helpful for me. And after I've been doing that for a few months, I go to a church on Tuesday night, a meeting at the church, and some friends of mine are members of that church, and they told me about it, and I tried it, and the pastor doesn't wear a tie. I'm afraid of people with ties because they always try to put me in handcuffs. So that made a big impression on me. And then the other thing was I don't have very much money, and they have a box in the back that you can put your money in. They don't stand there and hold a collection dish past you, because I'm embarrassed that I don't have any money to give them. And I recently went to a new members class where they talk about the history of the church and their beliefs and things like that. And I laid some real dirt on these people, prison and mental hospital. And I was sure they were going to say, here's the door, go ahead. And they didn't. They accepted me with loving and open arms. And I found a spiritual home, and I like it. And I know church isn't for everybody, but for me, it's been a path that I'm really enjoying, and it's kind of opened up a whole new area of my life, and I'm so grateful for a new life. And I say this all the time, but for the first time in 40 plus years, I finally feel like I'm done, and that is such a relief. The energy and drama and heartache and all of that. I don't miss any of that. I'm doing this deal with both feet in the water. I go to 2 or 3 meetings a day. Still, at a year, I go to 2 or 3 meetings a day, and I like the meetings now. I didn't like them before. It's a much better life for me, and I'm glad to have it. And that's all I got. Thank you.